This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we're going to talk about how the simple, non-violent crime of insurance fraud can lead to even worse crimes, including human trafficking, and why it must be stopped. Because criminal conduct never gets better. In a case entitled The People versus Dennis Lee Givens, the California Court of Appeals on February 3, 2025, dealt with his appeal to reverse his conviction for human trafficking and sought an order for a new trial. In September of 2020, Givens matched with J.C. on the dating app Tagged. J.C., who was 20 years old at the time, had known Givens since childhood because their mothers were best friends. After matching J.C. and Givens saw each other daily, and J.C. began working as a prostitute under Givens' direction. Givens set quotas for J.C., took her earnings, and threatened her when she failed to meet his demands. In February of 2022, J.C. confided in her mother, who then contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. The police arrested Givens after reviewing evidence on J.C.'s phone. Givens was charged with 1 count of human trafficking, with additional allegations of aggravating factors due to his prior convictions. He pleaded not guilty, and the trial was initially set for October of 2022, but was continued to February of 2023. Just before the trial, Givens' counsel discovered Cruz's criminal history, which included convictions for aggravated robbery, welfare fraud, insurance fraud, and forgery. Not a nice man. During the trial, the court excluded 3 of Cruz's 4 prior convictions, allowing only the 2009 forgery conviction as admissible. The trial court lasted 6 days, and the jury returned a guilty verdict after 2 hours of deliberation. At sentencing, the court found the aggravating factors outweighed any mitigation and sentenced Givens to the upper term of 20 years for his human trafficking conviction. The Court of Appeals concluded that the trial court properly exercised its discretion to conduct the trial and limit Cruz's testimony to relevant matters. The appellate court found no errors and upheld the trial court's decision because the California Supreme Court in 2024 rendered a decision in a case called People versus Lynch, which foreclosed Givens' arguments. The relevant inquiry for the Court of Appeals was whether an appellate court can conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that a jury would have found true all of the aggravating facts relied upon by the trial court to justify an upper term sentence, or that those facts were otherwise proved true in compliance with the current statutory requirements. In my opinion and in my experience, I've had a court and prosecutors tell me that insurance companies can't be victims of a crime like fraud, so they are not prosecuted. Givens had a career as a criminal, including the crime of insurance fraud, and had been convicted only to graduate from insurance fraud and forgery to human trafficking and turning a young woman into a life of prostitution with Givens as her pimp. In his prior conviction for insurance fraud, if it had resulted in a long sentence, J.C. would have grown into her majority without experience as a prostitute. prosecutors and courts must understand that insurance fraud is a serious crime and that perpetrators of insurance fraud must be punished accordingly to avoid them graduating to serious crimes like human trafficking. This video was adapted from my blog, Zalma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zalma.com/blog. You can subscribe to the blog, and if you do, you'll receive notice of every blog posting, usually 5 or 6 a week, and you'll also gain access to the more than 4,950 blog posts. Please tell your friends and colleagues about the blog so that they too can subscribe. And if you're interested in further detail about insurance, insurance claims, insurance fraud, and insurance law, please consider, for a very small fee, subscribing to my Substack publication. Thank you for your attention.